Cruz from the Center of Teaching Excellence. I'm an Associate Director of Technology Pedagogy. And I'm going to talk to you today about teaching large classes in the online environment. Some of you are watching us live from a distance, and some of you are here in the classroom with me. I thank you for showing up on this lovely rainy day, cold day. If you have questions as we go along, please let me know. And I'll remind you now, in case I forget, you have an evaluation at the end, so make sure if you're online you do that, or if you're here you do that as well. So I'm just going to start with my PowerPoint and talk to you a little bit about my experience. What I have found through my research has been effective for teaching online classes, especially large online classes. This semester is, believe it or not, my second largest online class. I have, as of yesterday, 244 students in one section in an online class. They are learning Excel and Access. They're undergraduate students, and it has brought some challenges, believe it or not. At a previous university, I had 415 in a large online class, and I quit and came here. So there are definitely some challenges that go along to online learning. These are the top 5 that kind of stick out in my mind when I think about how I transfer my learning from a traditional classroom to an online environment. How do I create a user-friendly course? You want it to be user-friendly. You want the students to be able to find things, because that eliminates a lot of questions. Anything you can do to eliminate questions is a great thing, okay? And how do I communicate effectively? How do I get the word out to them about when assignments are due or where it is in the syllabus? Because believe it or not, sometimes they don't read. And you have to email them and go, that's on page 2 of the syllabus. That's on page 4 in the syllabus. The syllabus is online. You can open it and read it. You can print it if you want to. And how do I provide timely feedback? And the feedback may be on their emails. It may be on a discussion board. It might be on an assignment. Some online teachers have rules about if someone wants to submit something early and get formative feedback, then they do that. And some, wait till the end and then give them the summative feedback. So you have to decide what feedback you're going to provide and what is timely to you. And the important thing is how, that doesn't show up very well, I put it in red, how do I not become a 24/7 online instructor? That was my first mistake when I first started teaching online. So as soon as they asked me a question, I replied. As soon as they put something on the discussion board, I replied. And they expected an instantaneous response. So then when you didn't, heaven forbid, check your email at 3 a.m. Sunday morning and reply to them, then you got bad teaching evaluations because you didn't communicate with them on a timely basis. So there are some terms you need to define with your students, and we'll talk about that. Like what is timely? What is immediate? Okay? And how do I survive? That's my main thing. We all have other things to do besides teach. You might want to have a life. You might, want to research. You might want to finish a project, whatever it is. So how do I survive in this environment? So these 5 things are kind of going to be my main topics for my PowerPoints. And so we're going to start with design a user-friendly course. Sometimes, and it depends on who you talk to, it may seem user-friendly to you, but it's not user-friendly to them. The students here take many online classes, and they look very different. They may take one from me, they may take one from Vera, they may take one from whoever, and the way we set it up is different in every online class. So you really have to think about how you build your class before you start teaching your class, okay? And the first indented bullet says review, review, review. When you design it, then review everything. Make sure all your links work. Make sure all your documents are there. Make sure all your documents open. So review everything that you put in Blackboard or you put in Facebook or wherever you're putting it. Because if you tell them it's there and they go there and it's not there or it doesn't open, then communication just builds and builds and builds and builds. And they're going to have more questions, okay? Make sure it has easy navigation. I think the students at USC are very used to, at least the ones I teach, to Blackboard. They're used to logging into Blackboard. If you hate Blackboard and you don't want to use Blackboard, then you need to use something else, build your own website or something that's got some buttons on it that has easy navigation. But I like Blackboard, so it works for me. Use modules. Don't just put a whole bunch of information out there and go, read it at your leisure and get back to me. Break it down into chunks or modules, and then develop those modules and organize those modules in a way that makes sense, okay? Maybe your course is more about content, whatever it is. You have to learn this level of content before you go to the higher level of content, before you go to the higher. So you might have modules that are based on content. You might also have modules that are just set up week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And this is what they do week 1, this is what they do week 2. Sometimes the content or your course, is more applicable to that. But the module is the key. And module is basically just a component, a little part of it. Okay? So they can do part by part by part. You don't want them to feel overwhelmed as soon as they log in. They go, oh my God, I have 4,000 things to do and I don't even know which button to click on first. Okay? And use more than text. Don't just have everything text-based. My students really just don't necessarily read everything I put out there. So if you can use some type of audio, video, voice over PowerPoint, even if anything you can think of to hit another learning style besides them just reading text and then doing something. Okay? Does anybody have questions so far? We're good? I'm just rambling. All right. The longer I talk, the faster I talk. So if I get going too fast, slow me down. Also, a part of your user-friendly course is what I call a dynamic syllabus. I have learned from teaching online that you may make this great syllabus, you think it's perfect, and all of a sudden something goes wacky in the class. You want them to learn about this specific piece of information, and for some reason they just become totally in love with learning more about that. Well, you were only going to teach it for a week, but they want to spend all this time on it. Well, adjust your syllabus and spend some more time on it. So what if you have to cut back someplace else? Maybe you want them to do a research report, and a student comes up and says, on another class, I'm creating a web page, and we're doing this, and I would like to create a web page about what you want me to research. Well, why do they have to do a report? So you tweak the syllabus and say, you have options. You can do a report, you can do a web page, you can do a PowerPoint, or whatever it is you want. So I always put in my syllabus that it is tentative, okay? It might change. And typically when it does change, it's because the students wanted it to change, then they're okay with that. And it's to their benefit, okay? You don't want to change it by adding 4 more tests and, 22 more assignments. But it is dynamic and it might change, okay? It has to be very comprehensive. My online syllabi are a lot longer than face-to-face classes that I teach because you just have to have everything in one place. Don't assume anything. You might be keying something in your syllabus and go, oh, I know they know how to make a home page in Blackboard. They've probably done that in 22 classes. Don't assume that they know how to do that. Put your instructions there. It's 2 steps. It's easy. Okay? 1 page at the end of your syllabus with due dates. They like to have, instead of going through all the syllabus, going, that one's due this Wednesday, that one's due next Friday, and then they read 2 pages. Oh, here's something that's due a week from now. Oh, they read 2 more pages. Here's something that's due in June. Have the last page of your syllabus. This is everything that's due. Here's the assignment. Here's when it's due. Because if they don't read the other 42 pages, they'll look at that last page. Okay? So that's a good thing to do to help them. If you can, record some type of brief audio, video introduction to the class. If you use Jing or Adobe Connect Professional or just voice over PowerPoint, whatever you can do that kind of says, hey, I'm a human being. I'm here to help you. This is what this class is all about. Here's the big project. This is what you have to do. Don't make it too long. Okay? Don't record anything if you can over 10 to 15 minutes because they won't listen to it. Yes, ma'am.
I recognize all the other things that you said, but what is Jing?
Jing, do you know what Camtasia is? She asked what is Jing. Camtasia is a software product by TechSmith, T-E-C-H Smith, and it allows you to record your voice and anything on your computer screen. Okay? Jing and Camtasia costs money, but it's relatively cheap. I don't know, $200, $250. Usually comes packaged with something else. Jing is also by TechSmith, but it's free. It's like, Camtasia is Jing on steroids, okay? Jing is very easy, but Jing only lets you record for 5 minutes, and then it cuts you off. You think that's a bad thing? Your students think that's a great thing, because 5 minutes, that's plenty for them. So if you could do a quick 5-minute, introduction, you could bring up the syllabus, and have it on the screen. You could be talking and go, here's what the course description is, here's your objectives, scroll down 10 pages, here's what your big project is, scroll to the last page, here's where all your due dates are. You can get all that in 5 minutes, and they watch that, they've got an overview of your course, just in case they don't read your syllabus, just in case. Okay? Good question.
And you can do that with Adobe Connect.
Yes, and you can do it with Adobe Connect as well. Thank you, Vera. Right. The other thing that some people do is they have a syllabus quiz. They give a quiz on the syllabus to see if the students read the syllabus. Okay? So this project involves whatever, whatever, or this does whatever, whatever. You have to, like my class right now, they are learning Excel, Microsoft Excel, and they have to watch my online voiceover PowerPoint. I call it my online lecture. They use SAM, which is a training package that simulates how to do things. They have to do a tutorial in the book. They have to do a case problem at the end of the book. And they have to take a quiz. So there are 5 things they have to do for every tutorial. Okay? So that's the perfect thing to put in a quiz. What 5 things do you have to do for every tutorial? They get it right, you give them 2 points on a participation grade, and they're like, ooh, I'm on my way to an A. Okay? All right. It's true. They'll do almost anything for practically nothing as far as points go. Again, the red didn't show up. I'm sorry it didn't, but there are certain things that you really want to put in your syllabus. You want your students to know your rules. I went to lunch with a graduate student today, and he was showing me a syllabus from another class, and the first line on the syllabus from the professor said, I check email during my office hours. Period, end. Okay? So he or she is not spending every Saturday, every Sunday, and every night. The students know you will get a response from me during my office hours. Okay? This is typically what I put in my syllabus. If you have a specific question, if you have specific questions pertaining to the course, assignments, projects, etc., do not email Dr. Cruz. That's the first thing I do is tell him not to email me. Because do you get other emails? I mean, from like people not just your students. Okay? But I tell them, instead, post your questions on the Blackboard, frequently asked questions discussion board, or this semester, for the first time, I have a group in Facebook, so just those students can get in that Facebook group and they can post discussion questions. So you either post your questions on Facebook, post your questions on the discussion board, don't email me. Because when you have 250 students, you get a lot of emails if you don't tell them not to email you. Now, I told them that up front several times in several different ways. And the first week of class, I probably got 200 emails. So then I started responding back, please post this on the discussion board or on Facebook so that everyone may benefit from the answer. Does that sound good? Yes, ma'am.
Why did you add Facebook?
I just wanted to do a little research and see which one they prefer. And I hear a lot at conferences that we have to go to where the students are. You've got to meet them halfway, those kinds of things. And so I'm just going to get in their space and see if it works for them. you know.
Will you let us know?
I will. I'll let you know. Right, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But right now, I have like 250 in the class. I think I have about 75 or 80 in my group on Facebook. But there has actually been more discussion in Blackboard. And I'm going to ask them at the end, is that because you're more used to doing classwork in Blackboard, or what is it? What works for you? And that's what you want to find out, is what works for them, because you want them to be happy when they fill out that course evaluation, and for other reasons. But I tell them not to email me, but what to do. I put, anyone may answer the questions in Facebook or on the discussion board. And if you answer completely and correctly, you will earn bonus points. Okay? You know when you teach classes on face-to-face basis, and you always have that kid in the class who knows every answer, and they're always raising their hand, and you're like, man, give somebody else a chance. They thrive in an online environment. They're like, I can answer every question. And once you figure out who those students are, you're like, yes, you can. Answer every one of them. And I'll give you 5 points. All right? I tell my students your questions will be answered within 24 hours if posted Sunday through Thursday. Okay? I tell my students I check my office hour, or check my email on Blackboard and Facebook now during my office hours and other times when I'm available. I do not consistently check on Saturday or Sunday. That's how you don't become a 24/7 instructor. Okay? So if they post on Sunday and I tell them I'm going to give them, I'll respond in 24 hours, then I can do that Monday. They post on Thursday, I can post on Friday. But if they post on Friday, they may not get an answer till Monday. So they need to know that. Then you learn very quickly, when do you make assignments due? This is something I learned the hard way, and she did too. She's laughing. I learned this the hard way. I was going to be the easiest, best, nicest online teacher in the world. That has changed. And so I thought, I'll give them all weekend to work on it, make everything due Sunday at midnight. They'll have all week and all weekend. So when they have questions, when do you get questions? Saturday and Sunday. So if you're not sitting there answering their questions, then again, you get nailed. Okay? So then I thought, well, I'll make it Friday, end of the week, work week. So Friday at 5 o'clock. That seems like a normal time. So then, when do you grade? Saturday and Sunday. Okay? So my due date, what works for me, is Wednesday at midnight. Okay? Wednesday, I know, is a late day for me. Okay? I know I typically am up at midnight. Okay? But that's me. That's my late night. If you want to make Wednesday at 5 o'clock, that's fine. But I typically have office hours on Tuesday and Thursday. So if they have questions before they turn it in on Wednesday, I'm there on Tuesday. If I want to grade, I can grade on Thursday while I'm in the office. Okay? So you eliminate that Saturday, Sunday, get yourself a life. Okay? Kind of thing. But you have to tell them that. I tell them I check my email during office hours and periodically at other times. Tell them I don't check on Saturday and Sunday. But I say, if you have other questions that don't pertain to the class, like we were talking before this started, you may have some students in your class that have special needs. They don't need to post that on the discussion board. So if you have anything else you need to talk to me about, that's fine. Okay? So I was telling you about kind of training the students not to email you. In the first week I had like 200 emails, and then I started saying, please post that, da-da-da. This morning when I got up, because you almost hate to get up some mornings, because when you click, it's going to be like, oh dear Lord, how many I'm going to have, and I got to get out the door. I had 4 emails, and 3 of them were, I know I posted something on the discussion board. Well, they start with, I know you said not to email you, but... And then they said, I posted something on the discussion board, but I figured it out, but I don't know how to get my question off the discussion board so the other people don't think I'm stupid. I said, don't worry about it. Somebody learned from it. It's all good. So, but you have to teach them like that. Okay. Continuing to design your user-friendly course, obviously plan ahead. Don't wait till the last minute and then try to get everything thrown up on Blackboard, because there'll be some problems. I'm a front loader. I load everything they will need for the entire semester 1 to 2 weeks before class starts. That's just me. Okay? Some people like to do week by week. Every week, they like week 1, they put out week 1 stuff. Week 2, they put out week 2 stuff. Week 3, they put out, whatever works for you. Okay? But they need to understand when you're putting stuff out. Okay? And when things are due. As far as technology goes, don't try to use too much. You confuse them. I always say just use the lowest common denominator. If all you need is Blackboard, then just use Blackboard. If you do need Adobe Connect Professional, then use it. But you don't have to use every feature of it. Just use the one that works for you and that's appropriate. Obviously have some type of central location. It's typically Blackboard or your web page or whatever. The students need to know one place they can go to see what they're supposed to do, to submit their assignments, or to download whatever it is they need to download. If you do use Adobe Connect Professional and you record, your online lectures or whatever, then post that link in Blackboard. So they still go to one place, click, and they know everything's there. Makes them feel like they're, have a home. Communicate effectively. Again, this is a word that has to be defined with your students, and the word is immediate. When they expect an immediate response, okay? When they put something on Facebook with their friends, they get an immediate response. When they Twitter somebody, they get an immediate response. When they take your online quiz, they get an immediate response. And they like that. Okay? So I explain to students that to me, the old person that I am, immediate is 24 hours. So if you expect something immediately, it will be in 24 hours. If for some reason I know I'm going to be at a conference or something like that, I might not get back to them, then I post that I'm going to be out of the office or whatever. You have to let them know that you're not ignoring them. Okay? And I communicate high expectations to my students. I think when you set the bar high, they reach that bar. If you expect them to do minimal work, they will. So make sure they know what they have to do. Try to get to know your students a little bit. It's difficult when you have 250 students, but this semester also I'm trying something else. Since I went to Facebook, I thought I might as well do Twitter. I'm doing some research with the Hotel Restaurant Tourism Management faculty about how Facebook and Twitter are used in the restaurant industry. And we found that there's this one hot dog cart guy in New York City who gets his hot dog cart and he's at the corner of Broadway and 5th. And he Twitters and says, I'm at the corner of Broadway and 5th. And everybody comes and eats his hot dogs. And then an hour later, he moves his cart. And he goes, Twitters, I'm at the corner of Main and, I obviously don't know streets in New York City. I'm at the corner of, Broadway's there, right? I'm at the corner of Main and, I don't know, First. And then everybody goes and eats his hot dogs. So that's what I'm doing with my office hours this semester. I Twitter and I say, I'm at Moe's from 11 to 12. You got any questions? I got my laptop. I'm afraid 250 are going to show up one day, and Moe's will love me, but, or I'm in my TSTM office. I'm in my CTE office because I move around campus all day long. And they have started. There's about 10 of them that are kind of like floating around and following me wherever I am. Yeah, they're following me. So, and right now I think I've got 30 of the 250 following me on Twitter. So Moe's shouldn't have 250 show up, just 30. I go to Moe's a lot. They're going to find out a lot about me. The other thing I'm afraid of is I'm going to gain like 25 pounds this semester because I'm at Moe's. I'm at Cool Beans. I'm at Immaculate Conception. I'm at... But effective communication is very important. One thing I like about the new Blackboard is that when you make an announcement, if you don't know this yet, you can scroll down. There's a little box. You click a check mark, and it says, email this announcement to all students. So if you just make an announcement sometimes, they don't check Blackboard, they didn't get that announcement. But if you announce it and you click that check and it emails all of them, they should have gotten it twice. There's no excuses. And try to predict your students' questions. You all know your course content. You know things that are difficult for students, whether you've taught it in an online class or a face-to-face class. So if you know there's something that's going to be difficult, like when I teach those who want to be teachers, the first time they make a lesson plan, it's very difficult for them. So I record using Camtasia, or Adobe Connect, or Jing, or whatever you do, the perfect lesson plan. And then I talk them through it. This is why this is perfect. Because these objectives are perfect. Why are these objectives perfect? Because, da-da-da-da-da. So they watch the perfect one before they have to do one themselves. So that's very beneficial. With the Excel and Access students, it's always the payment function. They don't get the payment function, you know. They'll plug in a calculation, the payment function. Let's say you buy a $200,000 home and your interest rate is 6%. And they'll come up with an answer of their monthly payment like $5,000. And they'll go, well, I got that done. And I go, does that make sense to you? Do you think your parents pay $5,000 a month? And they go, well, I don't know what I did wrong. So I record a little video. This is how you do the payment function. Now you too can do it. And as you create those, you build your resources. So you have them. And then if you build 2 more this semester, then you've got more next semester. So you can use those over and over. In one class, I gave extra credit because they like extra credit. If students would create Jing 5-minute videos to show somebody else how to do something in Excel or Access. So then you end up, you got 50 of them. So when a student emails and says, I don't know how to do this, you go, eh, watch that. Okay? Or you post them, you know? So you learn how to do that. Discussion boards, again, you know now I'm using Blackboard and Facebook, but there's typically 2 types of questions that show up on the discussion board. Ones that students post and they want answers to, and ones you might post and you want the students to discuss some type of content, course content. If it's a faculty posted discussion question and you want people to reply, if you have 250 people in the class and everybody has to reply, it's not much of a discussion. It's more like just post some stuff, you know. There's no thread. So you might, throughout the semester, post 4 or 5 faculty questions, and students have to respond to at least 1. Okay? Then you don't have so many to keep track of. If students post questions and they answer each other's questions, initially when you start out, you really do have to check those very carefully the first couple weeks to make sure that they're giving other students good advice. And they're right, because they lead them astray. Dear Lord, it's hard to get them back, you know, on track. But once you check them very carefully for a couple weeks, they start taking care of themselves. So it's just, you just have to train them to give feedback to each other. Yes, ma'am.
Tina, when a student has given a correct answer, do you respond that it is correct or do you let it lie?
For the first 2 weeks, I respond as much as I can. After that, I'm like, way to go. I don't respond. The first 2 weeks, if somebody responds and it's a good answer, I'll respond and say, way to go, you are on your way to extra credit. You know, you gave great information, that's perfect. Most motivating thing I can think to say to them. And then after that, they learn that they kind of take care of themselves. Otherwise, you drive yourself insane. Yes?
Do you use grouping in discussions at all, where you break them into smaller groups?
With the 250, I haven't. I didn't with my 415 either, but with smaller groups I have. But to try to keep this, because you want, you know, you don't want too many in the small group either, because then the discussion kind of falls apart. But I have used 6 to 10 people in a group. But then I'd have to check what's 250 divided 25 groups, you know. So, but if it works for your content, that's fine, you know. My alternative is to train them up front to answer each other's questions. I don't have a big discussion group in my class, which is teaching Excel and Access. Why are you learning Excel and Access? You know, I don't have that discussion board. I don't have a threaded discussion in that class. But if I'm teaching those who are going to be teachers, and I had 250, then I'd break them into groups and say, these are 10 classroom management issues. In your group, discuss what you would do as a teacher to solve that classroom management issue. And then I would check 25 groups. So I think it's kind of dependent on your content. Okay? Do y'all have grad assistants that can help you with these classes? Well, that's the same shake I got, you know. I got a 10-hour grad assistant that I'm thrilled to death to have, who can help manage some of those things. But I really promote student engagement and peer feedback more than anything and reward it.
How do you use your gadgets?
I usually more than 10 hours a week. I can take on. He is doing a lot of putting grades in Blackboard, because when I use SAM, which is a separate training, it has its own grade book, and those grades don't link to Blackboard. So you have to print that report and manually put them all in. When they do their cases, that goes to some other grade book. It doesn't automatically link to Blackboard. So he prints that report, puts in grades. And he's just been working for a week now. But he's going to get to the point where he will also be involved in the discussion, because as far as they know, he's another student in the class. So I may even have thought about this. And if you have, it's just like teaching a big class. Let's say you're teaching a class and you walk over to a student and he goes, I don't know how to do this. So you tell him. And you walk over to another student, he says, I don't know how to do this. So you tell him. You walk to another one and they go, I don't know how to do this. So you tell them. All three of them didn't understand how to do the same thing. So you step back in class and you go, okay, class, let me have your attention. There are, several of you who don't understand this, so let me tell everybody together to make sure everybody understands. I do the same with the discussion group. There were 5 questions that kept coming up in that discussion. And when it gets really long, those students aren't going to go read question 200 when they're on question 400, So I did an announcement, an email, posted it in Facebook, and said, these 5 questions keep coming up, so I'm going to answer them as a group. And that's another way that you don't have to answer everybody's discussion question. You've answered it in totality. Does that help somewhat? Sort of. Okay. So that's what I was talking about with this grouping. You group your questions. And I talked about this earlier. If you have a lot of things up there, you don't want every student responding to everything because it'd be too many. You'll say you need to respond to 3 peers, or you need to respond to 2 of my questions, not all 10 of them or whatever. Your overachievers are still going to respond to all of them. I saw a hand up. Yes?
When you have, this is with your extra credit for responding correctly, what is your max number of points in the course, and does a student get points for every time they are correct, or do they
5 points total out of like 300 in the entire course. They just love it. They still do it. It's minimal, very minimal. Now I'll probably give them another extra credit opportunity, which I'll talk about at the end of this presentation. They might get another 5 points. But the extra credit, it's like, it's so minimal. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that raises a question for us. We can't give extra credit by virtue of college policy.
Can you get participation grade?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
You get a participation grade for discussion, you get a participation grade for posting your homepage, you get a participation grade for whatever. If you break your participation grade down, if participation is 50 points, then you might have 5 different things that they have to do to get their 50 points, and each would be worth 10 points or whatever. Call it whatever you have to call it. It's a good point, though. Never thought about that. I was talking to a high school teacher the other day, and a student didn't hardly do anything, and I said, so did they get an F? Oh, no, we're not allowed to give Fs. We give Cs. C's the new F. I'm like, whoa, they're going to be shocked they get in my class. An F's an F. I don't know. So call it whatever you have to call it. Okay. But when you provide your feedback, make sure that it's regular and it's consistent. Don't tell one student one thing and one student another. So be consistent and regular with that. Your 24 hours or whatever. You might have assignment feedback or student question feedback, or I've told you about the motivation feedback I give them. Way to go! I'll look and see if people have submitted things ahead of schedule and put out an announcement, an email. I'm so proud of those of you who are working ahead. People tell me all the time that undergraduate students are procrastinators. You're proving them wrong. Way to go! Millennials rock. Put anything out there to motivate them and keep them going, because they like that feedback. They like that pat on the back, and they'll do a lot for that. So give them some type of feedback. You can also have, I've done this before, is have like a Word document, and you have common responses in it. Like you might have 5 different motivational paragraphs. So you have a paragraph that says, way to go, you rock, stay ahead, keep going, live the dream, I don't know, get an A. And you might have another one that says, you're on your way to an A in this class, keep going. You have about 5 of those. So then what you do when you've got like 50 people to respond to, you go copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, send. Okay? So you don't have to sit there and key all the way to go, copy, paste, copy, paste. There's 250 kids in the class. They don't know if 10 of them got the same response from you. Mm-hmm.
I do the same, something similar with a cut and paste. I send a note to any student who makes an A on one of the major tests. It's worth 21% of the grade.
Awesome.
And I do take the time to put their first name. I can look at the email address and put Alyssa, Heather, and then cut and paste, send.
That's excellent.
And they love it.
For those of you who are online, if you didn't hear her, she takes, if they get an A in the class, she responds to them, congratulations on your A, motivates them, but puts their name with it. And anytime you can personalize something, that's very good. That's excellent. But it saves you time. Okay? So trying not to become a 24/7 instructor, again, use your course management system, whatever it might be. Schedule your time. The problem with, how many of you teach totally online? You don't teach any face-to-face. Okay, me too. So the problem is, nobody thinks you teach. They think you have all day to do all these other things. So you have to schedule your time. If you typically taught this class or think you would like to teach this class on Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 4, then on your calendar you put Tuesday and Thursday 2 to 4 in class. Okay? When somebody says, can you meet from 2 to 4? You go, no, I'm in class. They go, I thought you taught online. I do, and I'm in class from 2 to 4 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You've got to schedule your time. Otherwise, all that time gets shuffled to Saturday, Sunday. So we're trying to take back our Saturdays and Sunday. I'm going to write a book, Take Back Your Saturdays and Sunday. Sell it to every professor. Automate as much as possible. If you can do your online quizzes, automate anything that will grade itself. You can't do everything that way, but anything you can, do it. Our dean is a true believer of test and retest. So we have quizzes for every tutorial, but the test bank might have 250 questions in it. But when they get a quiz, it gets a random 10 questions. If they want to take it again, take it again. You're getting a different 10 questions. You want to take it again? Take it again. You're getting a different 10 questions. You don't take it 25 times and you've learned all 250 questions and answers? Well, you get 5 points, So some students, you've had those students, they go, I got a 99, I wanted 100. And you're like, oh, dear Lord, be happy. Okay, take the quiz 10 times. Mm-hmm.
You said you have quizzes with 250 questions in a bank that draw out randomly. How can you do that on Blackboard?
Yep, Blackboard does that.
Sweet.
Yep.
Is there something specific I don't know about? Because whenever I've gone and let them do retakes, it tends to pull questions that they've already had. And
well, it may pull some. It's not like they're always going to get 10 different,
Yeah.
And if you have 250 and it's randomly picking, it randomly may
Sure.
pick some of the same ones.
Sure.
But it's really nice if all of them go in the computer lab at once and line up next to each other and try to all take the quiz at the same time and answer each other's questions. It's probably not going to happen. They may get some repeats in that.
I was just making sure I wasn't missing a feature.
If you haven't talked to University Technology Services, the Blackboard people, Chris Brown or Mitchell West, they can tell you how to do that. Or if you will email me, my email is T as in Tina, Cruz is CREWS @mailbox.sc.edu. I can send you a little one-page tutorial on how to make a random test that I just described. Again, I put don't email me, so tell them not to email you. That may not be the most popular thing that I've said, but they learn to put their questions elsewhere. That just helps me organize my life. I get enough emails, so keep that separate. If you don't use rubrics for grading something that's not automated, checklists, rubrics, whatever, that helps you be consistent in your grading and make sure that you're evaluating the objectives of whatever the course is. We could have a whole day of rubrics. I do encourage self and peer evaluation and feedback as much as possible. Some of my classes, not this 251, but they have to do oral presentations. So I will have their peers use the rubric to grade their oral presentation before they do their final one. So if they want to go change it again, and then I grade it. By the time they self-evaluate, a peer evaluates, and then they turn it in, they should have done it 3 or 4 times. It should be pretty good by the time you get it, so you don't spend so much time grading. Also, thank you, don't think that you have to grade everything. Let's say they have to do a research report, or they have to do a report, whatever. Don't think that you have to grade everything in one setting. You know, you might, in the research report, just look and see if they hit the 5 top things you thought they should, and make them use headings. Okay, headings are very helpful. And I tell them, you know, you don't want me to be hunting for things. You don't want me to go, I can't find it. You don't want me to get upset while I'm grading, because grades go down when I get upset. You want me to be happy and be able to find things and, you know, find joy and peace and take my yoga class. And you want me to be happy. So make sure you tell them, you know, you might grade the same thing twice. But one time, I'm just looking for format. One time, I'm looking for the 5, you know, best things in there, or whatever it might be. If possible, get some help. We all know how that is, but if you can, get some. So how do I survive? I try to help my students become better online learners. A lot of them don't know how to learn online. A lot of them don't want to learn online. And a lot of them don't have an option. The class I'm teaching right now is for all majors in our college. It is only taught online, so you want to take it, you're going to take it online. I'm having some Macintosh issues with software and things like that. And so one student called me and said, I have a Mac and there's not Access 2007 for a Mac, and you know, this doesn't work with my Mac and this doesn't do this. And I said, you know, you could go to a computer lab at the library. We're going to have a lab for just this class in our building. You could come to our building. You could go to, you know, I don't know who else has them. I said other, you know, campus locations and use a PC. And she said, well, that seems like too much trouble. I'm going to drop the class and take it in the summer. I said, absolutely, it's your choice. It's going to be the same thing in the summer, okay? But my class went from 250 to 249, and I was like, woohoo! I was like, hey, tell your friends. I don't know. But I do try to help them become better learners. I tell them to be proactive. Don't wait till the last minute to ask questions. Ask up front. As soon as you don't understand, ask. You want to come see me? Come see me. You know, it's okay in an online class if you want to show up in my office. It's a good thing. Okay? Stress the importance of not procrastinating. Just any way you can do it. I set my syllabus up this time, and all the headings are questions. What do I need to do to get started in this class? You know, what book do I need? What software do I need? And one of the questions is, would it be okay to procrastinate in this class? And it says, absolutely not. I'm like, hope they read that part. But anything you can do to motivate them not to procrastinate. Give them opportunities to help others, because when they teach others, they learn more themselves. There's a lot of inventories that are out there for some type of self-assessment for students and whether or not they would be good online learners. Or you might want to do a self-assessment on how much they know about the subject already, so you know kind of where to step your teaching up to. One of the inventories that's designed already, that doesn't show up well at all. You guys email me. I can email you this PowerPoint, or well, I'm sure it will be posted on the CTE website. But there's an extended learning inventory, and it's out by Northern Virginia Community College. And you also have a handout, those of you who are here, the white piece of paper handout. It's a very simple little 10-question item, and the students can take it, and basically it just tells them, you know, if you're a big procrastinator and you don't like to read, and you know, life's more important than college, maybe an online class isn't for you. And on the back, it color codes it online, but on the back it kind of gives them tips. Well, if you say that you like to do things at the last minute, maybe you shouldn't do that. You know, so it kind of jogs their memory a little bit on what they should and shouldn't be doing. That's just one example. There's tons of them out there if you search the internet. But it provides some tips for them. Here's a couple of the questions for those of you who are not in the classroom. You know, feeling that I'm a part of the class is not particularly necessary, somewhat important, or very important to me. So then maybe if all of your class says it's very important for me to feel like I'm a part of this class, then you're going to have to do a lot more communicating. If they all say, I don't care, it's not important to me, whatever, I'll just post stuff on the discussion board. So you kind of learn something about your students. Okay. How do I survive? Make sure you do some type of course assessment. I know we have to do course assessments, but make up your own questions. Or on a scale of 1 to 5, how effective were my online lectures? And put a category that says, I didn't watch them. Okay? Because if you're spending a whole bunch of time recording your lectures, I spent a whole summer once in an apartment by myself before my husband moved here, and the guy upstairs thought I was nuts because I was down there talking to myself all summer long, recording lectures and making CDs. And at the end of the semester, the students were like, I didn't watch those. Did you watch those? Who would watch those? I just looked at the book. I asked him, who are you? You know? I'm like, why did I spend my entire summer doing that? So add your own questions. You know, was it effective on a scale of 1 to 5? How effective was it to have a discussion board on Facebook? How effective was it to have a discussion board? Then don't do it again. Okay? Limit your work. So find out what works for your students. Find out what works for your course, because every course content's different. Find out what works for you, and then make changes before you teach it again. If you want to find out more, we are having a mutual expectations workshop. It's a collaborative thing between the Office of Student Engagement and the Center for Teaching Excellence. And we bring students and faculty together and have a roundtable discussion. We've done one before that was just basically, hey students, what do you expect of us? And the students are going, what do you expect of us? And it's a real nice roundtable discussion. And this time we're going to ask them, what do you expect faculty to do with technology? And then faculty, what do you expect your students to do with with technology? Don't do anything with faculty, that was bad. So that's when it's at the Russell House. So if you're interested, it's on the website. Let us know. And what do I have, 7 minutes? Does anyone have a best practice you want to share, like similar to what she shared about giving feedback to their students and putting their name in it to make it personal? Anybody have a big best?
I don't know if it's big or best, but I use Breeze, and so they watch the PowerPoint slides with my voiceover. And one of the assignments that they have is embedded in those Breeze presentations are what I call in-class activities. And they are supposed to just do whatever I ask them to do and then mail them to me at the end of the semester. But I don't have them listed in the syllabus, like, there's 3 of them in class 2 and there's 1 of them in class 6. They're just supposed to do them as they come across them, and I don't want them typed. Because they're obviously watching me on their computer, so I just want, I tease them and say, write it on the back of a cocktail napkin. I don't care. And then stuff them into a plain brown envelope and mail them to me at the end of the semester. And the students have told me that makes them feel accountable to watch my lectures.
And Breeze and Adobe Connect Professional is now the same thing. They changed their name, but just for those of you who don't remember Breeze, because that's when I got here, it was Breeze too. But there is a place, and Kella Edens in the College of Ed is the best at it ever. That, when you make your PowerPoint, you have the place down below you can type notes to yourself. If you do that, and then go to Adobe Connect Professional and record it and everything, there's a little tab on the side that shows up and it has notes. So the students can click on that, and if they had hearing disabilities or something like that, they could read your notes because they can't hear you, or you can put questions in there. So they would have to watch your lecture, click on notes to see what questions they had to answer about your lecture. So that's kind of the same, idea, and get them to do something with it. That's a great idea. Anytime you can engage them, make them responsible for their learning, Instead of you having to feed them everything, you need to be the facilitator of the learning, not the dumper of knowledge, if you will. Is dumper a word? No, I don't think so. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. What course structure, assignments, and content adaptations do you make for going from a class of 20 to a class of 415?
My syllabus gets really, really long, much longer. My discussions that I put out there tend to be broader. Everything kind of just becomes bigger. I tend to record things I know they're going to have issues with more. So I think I incorporate more video, audio than I do with smaller classes. I give more feedback, not just because there's more people, but because I think there's less understanding somehow. It gets lost in the shuffle, you know. I keep pretty much the same. If you'll switch back to the computer, Jay, I pretty much keep the same, design. I'm not a week 1, week 2, week 3 person. I'm a content person. So they know, I always put myself first because I think I am. Not really. But you've got to have your course at, where are you? And I'm everywhere. So, but remember, follow me on Twitter or join the Facebook group. Follow me around. It'll be fun. Your announcements, I think, become more. This is the class that just started last week. That's just the ones this week. Okay? So your announcements become a little bit more because you have more information to tell them. Your assignments, anytime they have an assignment, they should know to go, this is where you dump your assignment. Every one of them. Your course documents. Some people have course information link and a course documents link. It confuses me. What's course information? It's your documents. So I eliminate that one and just do course documents. So any course document they need. Every rubric I have. See, I'm a front loader, so everything's out there. So before they do this final project, they know exactly how I'm going to grade them. That eliminates a lot of questions. So there's a lot of documentation I probably put out more for the bigger classes. Obviously, the communication. Here's the discussion board, okay? This is a week and a half. 175. I got 3 more. But the thing that interests me most is there are 40 participants. Okay? It tells me right here. It's not very clear. There's 175. I got 3 more to answer right now. But there's 40 participants. So 40 students out of 250 are the ones that are answering all the questions. Okay? Or they got a whole bunch of them, one or the other. Okay? So that's kind of neat. And my online lectures. These are Breeze, Adobe Connect, but they know where to go to get my online lectures. There's your quizzes, and then the other things, etc. So they just know where to go. I don't have to tell them where to go. It seems intuitive, I guess. Brumby?
Do you take things down so when the quiz is over, does it disappear, or do you leave them up? See the whole
Since
cycle?
these quizzes, they can take as many times as they want. The last time they take it, that grade is submitted. But I cut those off because I don't want them to continue to take it throughout the entire semester. If it's something like, I guess I cut them all off because things are due by a certain date and then it won't let them submit after that. So yeah, I guess I cut everything off. I never thought about that. Because then they can't submit.
What do you do about the due dates? I noticed one of the weaknesses I at least continue to discover in Blackboard is this revealing what the due date is to students. You have to write it in. It doesn't tell them what the due date is.
I tell them in the syllabus.
Okay.
I don't do that through Blackboard. I take that check out. It says when's the...
They don't really see that, though, from my understanding.
You can type it into the...
Right. You have to tell them, though.
Yes.
Even though you've said it and checked everything, it doesn't tell them what to do.
It doesn't show up in the grade book? Here's my syllabus. So I check my email. Do not email me And then here's 3 options for books. What is SAM? What is Case Grader? What are the objectives of this course? After watching and listening to the online lectures, then what shall I do? How do I earn extra credit? No makeup work. Absolutely none. Do not do makeup work with 250 students. You will drive yourselves insane. If you want to, thought I had that screen up. If you want to do something like, you automatically drop the lowest quiz grade, you don't have to worry about if they missed it. I have before used, if you miss a test, there's an Excel test, Access test, a final exam. If you miss the Excel or Access test, when you take the final exam, it counts for the final exam and the one you missed. Because the final exam's harder and they're going to do worse on it. Okay? But then no makeup tests. So no makeup grades, period, end. And I already have students emailing me going, I don't have my book yet because I just don't. They have no excuse. I just don't. I know I've already missed work and I know I'm not going to get credit for it. And I'm like, you're right, you're not.
What happens for university excuse type of absences? You have to make room for that, right? If someone is sick and couldn't take the exam.
Right. If they were hospitalized or death in the family or something like that. But typical, I'm going to the football game early, or I just spaced it, nothing like that.
Well, but you are giving them
an
out by saying you can drop a grade or you can use a final exam or whatever. There is a mechanism there that it's not an automatic 0.
Right. I still don't do makeup tests. If they were out for an extended period of time and missed because of an illness or whatever, and they missed half of the tutorials that they needed to do to learn the software, I'd let them make that up. If they have that excuse. But I still don't let them make the test up because you've got the out, like Ruthie said.
And you make your tests and quizzes available over a couple of days, 3-4 days?
And this, typically I do, when I taught it in face-to-face, I would make it Tuesday to Thursday. So I'll probably do the same. I haven't released those tests yet. But yeah, usually a 3-day period, 24/7.
Tina, just quick question. It seems like we transformed the in-class structure of classes online. Do we really know the efficacy of these different types of learning modules? Do you really need to have discussion? And discussions are good for me. I'm thinking in terms of when I was sitting in class. It's good when the professor is there and then I'm talking to him, I'm learning. And then you're asking the students to teach each other. They don't know much about that either. So, and then we don't really also monitor or moderate whatever because we have so many of them. So, why do we do this discussion boards? If you're really not really getting engaged in.
Because I think people have always told us that's what we need to do. And that engages the students. So the question is, will you do my research with me while we teach these classes of 250 to figure out if it is effective? And that's what we've got to do. At your end of the course, you have to ask them, is this effective? Does it work for you? Because why should we spend so much time doing something that's not effective?
It's like we load them up with a lot of work.
We do.
And assuming that they only take our class. Mm-hmm. They take a bunch of classes.
Right.
And a lot of reading. They won't have enough time.
Right.
You always also at their face, at their personal space.
Right.
Facebook.
Right.
Well, and we hope anecdotally that this gets at some of that.
The mutual expectations.
With 8 students, they'll say, I get a lot out of the discussion. Or you know what? It's a waste of my time. I just go and watch TV while it's up. So I can be counted as there, or whatever. But we hope that, Tina's talking about doing research. It's going to take a while to cull that down into something. But this is a real down and straightforward way to just sit at a table with 6 random students that aren't in your class that say, I do get something out of discussion online, or I don't.
And with 250 students, we're going to have so many different learning styles, and some will and some won't. So then you kind of decide. It's kind of like when you teach, in class, do you teach to the lowest level student? Do you teach to the middle level student, or do you teach to the highest level student? You're going to lose somebody along the way. If you teach to the lowest level, your higher ones are going to go, I'm bored to death. You teach to the middle, you've lost the bottom. You teach to the highest, you've lost two. So it's kind of, Vera, have one more comment.
No, I'm just going to say, if you are interested in collecting data, we do midterm evaluations on all of our online courses here in the College of Nursing, and we'll be happy to
You've
share.
got tons of data.
Well,
We're a little, I'm sorry, go ahead.
one of the things you have to be careful, I don't know, what is that sample of the student come to your workshop, because you cannot, that probably may not represent the general population of your student.
That's true.
So
Well, I'll
you
tell
have
you
to be
right
careful
now,
about the interpretation, what
Chief is
they
going to
say.
offer extra credit to her 249 students. So they might be disproportionately Tina
But
students.
these are
But
just,
you're right.
yeah, these are could be Excel and Access. I'm assuming you are teaching on business or.
I'm in the College of Hospitality, Retail, and Sport
Okay,
Management.
that could be different. For
Correct.
example, we're teaching nursing, that is different. So our student completely different from other student because we have clinical and other issue with our nursing students. So
That's absolutely
So it's
correct.
good that all of you are collecting your own data so you can make those changes in your courses. And we're about 6 minutes over, so if anybody needs to leave, please do. But please fill out the evaluation. If you're online, please fill out the evaluation. Thank you for your time. I can stick around for a little bit for those of you who have questions. And thank you, Jay.
Thank you. I was thinking that.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. It's a lot of information.